Hi everybody, welcome back to Sweetwater Place. It has been too long. And I'm going to start out with a pretty private video. So if you are not interested in learning about hysterectomy issues and women reproductive issues and all of that kind of stuff, I'm going to be talking a little personal, then now's your time to just wait for the next video. That is not in this series because this is going to be a series. I'm going to be documenting my hysterectomy journey. So if you're here for that, I welcome you. And then if not, I'll see you soon if you're not interested in that. Also, if you have kids, it's probably a good time to shut it off and wait for another video. Okay, that being said, I am scheduled for a hysterectomy in about 11 days from now, and it is just coming on a little soon. So needless to say, I am nervous. I'm not fearful. I have a wonderful doctor. I feel like the Lord has just really directed me in his area to find him and write to him, in fact. And he happens to be a world-renowned doctor who trains other doctors to use the method which he's going to be using to do my hysterectomy, which is the Da Vinci laparoscopic method. And he really seems to care about his patients. And so I really do appreciate that. He also appears to be a very skilled doctor and gets great reviews. So I know I'm in really good hands. Yet nevertheless, it's something that I really was trying to avoid having was a hysterectomy, and here we are. So there is some anxiety. I've been watching other people's videos, and there are a lot of medical videos that are out there that have been very helpful. I get very squeamish trying to actually watch like an actual medical procedure on this, but I do feel comforted to hear of other people's positive journeys, and that helps to kind of walk me through this. So what my aim is to do here is to provide another resource like that, so that when there's somebody out there like me looking around for somebody to hold their hand and say, it's going to be okay, I hope that this series is going to help fulfill that need for people looking for that. So here we go, right? At the same time, everything seems to be in place. Lots of prayers going up for this whole event, but you never know what's going to happen around the corner. We hope not to have any complication. Now, let's start back to why did I need this hysterectomy in the first place? Well, I have always had interstitial cystitis, which is a bladder issue. And that bladder issue can be very debilitating. You have bladder pain, and I know the bladder is totally a separate issue. I'm getting to it. What it is you have little fissures and cracks in your bladder. This is pretty much the way that you've been born, and anything acidic in there sets the whole thing up. Stress can set it off. All movement can set it off and send your bladder into spasms. It's very painful, and also burns. It could feel like you're having a really terrible UTI, but you don't. You test negative for that. And sometimes you actually do test positive for that, but you're kind of all over the place. I have been in remission for that for, I want to say, going on almost 2 months now. But before that, I was in a flare-up for IC for about 2 months straight. And that means that, I take Urostat so that I can calm things down. I drink so much water, and there are more than the usual amount of bathroom visits just because my bladder's going into a spasm, and so there are no hiking events. I always watch the bathrooms wherever I'm at. I mean, it's, once I go into remission like I am now, I have a little bit more playroom to be able to go further and further away from a bathroom. But anyway, with that issue comes fatigue, And you have to lay down and put a heat pad on your bladder area. So I thought, fast forward to my current doctor, who found that I had, besides IC, I actually have endometriosis, as I've had for a very long time. And he said some of those issues that you thought were interstitial cystitis are actually the symptoms of endometriosis. And so, as for example, the fatigue, which you really feel throughout your whole body, and you need that heat pad and a couch to just lay down, and there's just nothing else that will help. Anyway, besides that, there is this constant pain that I pretty much lived with, for years and years and years. I want to say decades, where you feel like you're having period cramps in your back and in the front area, your pelvic area. And I just assumed that that was part of the interstitial cystitis, but come to find out, it was actually probably part of the endometriosis that I was suffering from. And so I didn't really realize that maybe that's what it was, that it could have been something else until I went through menopause and actually stopped having those heavy periods. But I still had the cramping, or I want to say not so much cramping as it was just a dull ache pain back there, which I also had during periods, but that persisted. So that didn't make sense to me. So I just assumed it was interstitial cystitis. Come to find out, it's not. It is most likely the endometriosis that is hurting that way. So I tried to stick out menopause and all the hot flashes and everything for 4 years. And then I finally kicked myself in the booty and got myself to a bioidentical hormone replacement therapy doctor. And she has been amazing. I've been with her ever since. And she now implants a pellet in me every 3 months into my upper hip area. And I'm good to go. My hormones are completely wonderful. She checks on them once or twice a year, and we make sure that I am good and fixed up. So my ovaries are not giving me any more hormones. I'm getting that through other sources. So that being said, when I went into this doctor, my urologist, who has been working with me with interstitial cystitis, had said, I think you might have something else going on here. I'm going to send you to the OBGYN, and I want them to look and see if there's something going on with your fibroids. Come to find out, a lot of the issues that I was experiencing with urology issues were probably due to the fact that I have 7 fibroids, and one of them is a little large, and it is pushing on my bladder. So that may be activating my interstitial cystitis a little bit more. So now I have to go back just a minute here. When I started my bioidentical hormone journey, I had 2 fibroids, and now I have 7. So there is a chance that when you take bioidentical hormone, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not any kind of medical person, this is my personal experience I am sharing with other people so that maybe they can go to their doctor and discuss what's going on with them. So it is possible, from what I understand, that taking bioidentical hormones or any kind of hormones where you're taking estrogen in, that if you have fibroids, estrogen feeds fibroids, and this is how they grow, there's a chance that those can continue to grow, right? Now, what I've heard from other doctors discussing this is that they can level off and not give you any problems. That could have been what has happened to me, is that they've grown to 7 and maybe they've leveled off, but I still have that one that's pushing on the bladder. And so I'm still having the dull aches and the pains of endometriosis as well. And so what the doctors decided to do was that he said, if we go ahead and do this hysterectomy, it could provide you with a lot of relief. So let's do that. And the first thing I said was what most people say is, can I keep my ovaries? And he looked kind of surprised, and he said, well, I mean, if the only reason to keep them now is for sentimental reasons. But, you know, they're not doing anything for you. And if I take them out, that will minimize risk of cancer, you know, later. So, and then this was before they did an MRI, and he could see, you really can't see all the endometriosis unless they open you up. And so, but there is a little bit that can show up on an MRI, which he saw, and he said, you know, you do have one ovary that's just riddled with the endometriosis, so we might as well just take them out, you know, and minimize all the any cancer risk in the future. And I agree. I discussed it with my bioidentical hormone doctor as well, she's quite young, but she did undergo a hysterectomy as well. And she said that it is completely fine, no worries. She said, I've already been supplying you with all of these hormones that you need, and you're not even going to skip a beat as far as that goes. We'll just keep those going. So here we go. So hopefully this is going to alleviate some of the pain that I've been going through. Now, endometriosis has no cure. Interstitial cystitis has no cure. But what we're trying to do is just lift some of that burden that's going on in there. My uterus is now 3 times larger than what it's supposed to be. So we're going to take some of that out of there and just kind of like give that space a place to breathe. And that's why I need to have a hysterectomy. That means everything's going. The fallopian tubes, the ovaries, the cervix, and the uterus are all going to be leaving. But because I have the endometriosis there, he's also has to do a cleanup, which they are saying possible lysis of adhesions, resection, fulguration of endometriosis, uterosacral vaginal vault suspension cytoscopy. So this the suspension part means that, you know, once the cervix is taken out, there's less support for the vaginal area. And so what he's going to do, they make a vaginal cuff over the top of it to close it once the cervix is taken out, and he is going to reattach ligaments to the top of that to keep that in place. And so that way that helps to prevent a prolapse later on. I have complete faith in my doctor. He is very knowledgeable in what he's doing and cares very much for his patients. And so I will be taking you through this process. I've already had my pre-op visit. I've heard for some people the pre-op visit is like 4 hours or something like that. That's not how this was. This is done in pieces, I guess. So I met with my doctor's office, and they did, you know, the paperwork and went over, you know, do I understand what's happening and what I can and cannot do. And they gave me a wonderful little binder with all of the information, the instructions before and after. And so I'm gathering up everything that I can that I need from Amazon. You know, I'm going to make my little box of what's going to help make this easier. And I will be sharing those things with you probably in the next video, because I know that this is a lot to discuss already. I still have to go over to the hospital to take blood work, because they need to take blood work and make sure that that looks good beforehand. And my doctor has ordered all of the prescriptions beforehand so that I can pick all that up from the hospital and have that ready to go as well. Okay, so I'm going to let you go for now. This is kind of a long video, and we'll see you soon. All right.